our pleasure to welcome onto our program Comerade or Barrister Femi Aborisade. You're welcome to Close Flow.
Thanks very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. Now let's start from what we know of you. You know, the passion to see how ills in the society can be corrected. Now, the 80-20 ratio that we find in most societies, is that purely an economic definition, or does it have a social political impact?
No, what are you referring to in terms of the
80-20? We have the 20, the upper class that is being fed by the 80% of the entire population.
Actually,
it's worse than that.
It is worse than that. But before I go into that, let me say I actually retired from the Polytechnic Ibadan, not from a university.
Okay, from the Polytechnic Ibadan. Yes.
Yeah. Now, coming to your question, it is worse than 80-20 ratio. Very recently, on a global basis, Oxfam conducted a research and established that only 85 persons in the world control more than half of the wealth of the world. More than 50% of the wealth of the world. 85 persons. In the world today, the population is about 7 billion.
Yes.
That means that 85 persons are controlling
the wealth of
the wealth
that should be shared by 7 billion.
The wealth of about 3.5 billion persons. Coming to Nigeria by a research carried out by the IMF, 1% of the Nigerian population controls 85% of
the wealth.
In other words, the remaining 99% of Nigerians are struggling with only 15%
of the national wealth.
So in other words, as far as Nigeria is concerned, only 1% are troubling Nigerians. Only 1% are messing up the lives of ordinary people. And the only reason why that situation persists is that the 99%, which is obviously greater than 1%,
yes,
they are not organized. And all that is required, the challenge, is for them to get organized and stop looking forward, looking up to
the 1%.
The 1% for solution to their problems.
Their minds. Okay,
it will never happen.
Okay, all right.
Expecting that will mean that you are expecting stone to shed tears.
Now that is almost
impossible.
Yes. Now, okay, but let's look at it this way. You have touched on one critical issue. That's the question of organized. Now, for a while, you empathize with the labor, movement. So, are we saying?
I still do.
Well, so now
I'm still involved in all their activities.
Now, are they not organized enough to make this change that we are hoping for?
Yes, they are. The labor is organized, but the Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, and their affiliates organized in the formal sector. A lot of other Nigerians are there who are not organized. Even those who are organized, they have not been taking on the establishment, taking on government, fighting enough. And the kind of organization and fighting that they need to do in order to improve their lot, their well-being, their living standards, is the example set by the ASU, Academic Staff Union of Universities. In spite of all the threats, they held on until what they were asking for was considered by the government.